What in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s,
Think about
yeah.
the 20s.
What
baby.
Plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my
20s, baby. This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zama Mkhize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through its baby. On today's episode, I'm going to be speaking about falling in love with potential. I always found this so strange. You know, people say that when we fall in love with potential, it's because we're falling in love with the best versions of them, who we see them to be, who we know that they could be. Everything that in the glimpses that they show us, they can be this version that we want them to be, that we believe that is they're capable of, essentially. And I always found that a little bit selfish, because it sounds to me like it's a projection for us of what we would do if we were them. And it's really a frustrating thing that we do, because we get so frustrated with them for not meeting our expectations. And I think that it begins as this really exciting thing, right? Where we build a fantasy around all that they could be, around all that we want them to be. We start building this dream around them, and it becomes so powerful because we begin to attach ourselves to that fantasy. And when we do that, it makes it even difficult for you to see reality. What you're doing is distorting who the person is showing you that they are for who it is that you expect them or believe that they will be if you just hang around long enough, if you just build them, if you just invest in them, if you just continue pouring into them, if you stay any longer, they will become all that you believe is the best version of them. And so begins this manipulative game that we both play. And we don't do it intentionally, right? You know, it's not out of malice and all of that we manipulate them, but it becomes dangerous because we start to make everyone believe what it is that we're seeing. You know, when you go tell your friends, no, but they're actually really nice, they're actually really great, no, they're actually this and that. You tell your family, you tell whoever's around you, your support system. You try to convince everyone of this dream that you have built, this inflated idea of a person that makes them sit on this pedestal that they did nothing to get there. You put them on it, right? They achieved it. It wasn't on merit. It wasn't based off of something that they did or did not do. It is simply because you had decided that they were special enough to be placed on that platform. And now you want everybody to glorify this idea of a person that we have. And I think the thing about potential is, I guess, the sad truth of it when you come to the end of it is realizing it was never there to begin with. The reason I say that you both become manipulators is they begin to learn what makes you feel satisfied. You know, they begin to learn what makes you feel pleased with them, happy with them, to have them around, that they do just enough to keep you, just enough to convince you that maybe one day they will change, just enough to make you feel safe in their presence, make you feel like they were sorry when they did something wrong to you. They do just enough because they know that that's all they need to do for you to cut them some slack. They know that that's all they'll ever need to give and be for you to accept that this is what the relationship is, essentially. And that's the problem with it too, is that now when you keep doing this for so long, your relationship poses no real threat. And by that I mean there is no fear that you will leave. it doesn't cross their mind that a day could come where you might decide to walk away, where you might decide you've had enough, where you might decide that this isn't for you. It literally doesn't it doesn't click, because what they do is they keep pushing your threshold of what you can accept, because you have attached yourself to the hope and the desire that if you just stay a little bit longer, if you just endure this, that there will be some reward for your patience. There will be some reward for your efforts. There will be some reward for your grace. And that's a really painful truth you're going to have to deal with at the end of it, is realizing there was nothing but punishment. There was nothing but loneliness. There was nothing but pain and suffering, consistently, so that you end up resenting the person. And I always think, like, are they really to blame for being upfront about who they are and showing you based on their actions, the things that they do, there's this thing that says we feel, therefore we think, therefore we do. It's like how what we feel about ourselves is, what we tell ourselves is what it is, and that's how we act. And so I always say, like, the actions of somebody is evidence of how they feel about you. Somebody who values you would not put themselves in a position to lose you. Somebody who, and that's not to negate the fact that people make mistakes, and that there are going to be hurdles and bumps, but it's about what you do with the mistakes afterwards. Are you making a concerted effort to do better, to be better, in order to serve the relationship? Or are you comfortable knowing that this person, no matter what you do, how much you do it, and how much you're ready to keep repeating those mistakes, that they're gonna forgive you anyways? And that's what I mean. Like, there's no real threat that poses to the relationship, because there's a safety that they're sitting in and they're very relaxed in, because they know, like, you will protect them. You will protect the good that you see in them. You will protect their identity. When you even stop telling your friends everything that's going on in the relationship or the friendship and stuff in order to protect the person, they know that you care about them that much that you would not try assassinate their character or whatever, because you're so attached to this fantasy, this dream, this idea of them. You built it up so perfectly. You built it up yourself from the ground up, really. And I'm not saying with no help from them. Like I say, they do just enough to feed into it. They do just enough for you to feed on that drug and that excitement, that thrill, of, are they going to be a better person or not? Are they going to change or not? Are they going to be different or not? There is this anticipation, this curiosity that keeps us coming back for more, to when we're in situations of attaching to potential, right? It's like, is this going to be the breakthrough? Is this the situation that's going to take us to the other side of our relationship and all the rest? And potential really is just that, like, potential unused, really, there's no value to it. It just sits there. But if it actually is something that is, the person is working on, it can become something great. But what we do is we absolve them from the responsibility of working on the potential, and we do it for them. We fill that gap. We stand in the gap between what they're meant to be doing to be the person they want to be, and we try force them to get there quicker. We try push that momentum to go even further, because we think we were brought here to inspire something in them that would make them that version of themselves. And it's a way that we delude ourselves and self-soothe as to why we're still here. We believe that that is our mission, that is our goal, that is our purpose, is to bring the best out of this person, even if it means it is constantly bringing out the worst in yourself. And we're willing to self-sacrifice so that the other person may thrive. We're willing to set ourselves on fire so that the other person may feel warm, so the other person can see, thinking that this way they'll have vision, they'll have foresight. And it is the most bizarre cycle, right? Because then you also get to a point where you realize, now I don't want to do this anymore. And that moment when you're ready to leave, right? It's always that moment when you're ready to step out and choose better, when they know just what to do to will you back in. You know, they know what to say. They know exactly, because they also now start to feel a fear. What would happen if my crutch is gone? You know, what would happen if they would actually, you know, and it's like, no, I can't have that. And so they say just exactly what to say. They do just exactly what you need them to do. And it only lasts for that moment. It only lasts for that day. It only lasts for some time. But they were never really challenged to change to begin with. And I think about, I was watching this video, I'm so sorry I can't quote it, I'm going to paraphrase, but how the psychologist was speaking about I love you very often, like we'll hear it very often, right? I love you, but I love you very rarely means I love you. You know, sometimes it means don't go. Sometimes it means I'm sorry. Sometimes it means please stay, and all the rest. Like we say it and we think it's a good enough excuse to make someone stay, to make someone believe you, and all the rest. It's like a weapon that we use by saying that it must mean we need to continue in this relationship that we're in. But I love you, I think, and I constantly speak about how it's a selfless act. It is thinking outside of you. It is wanting what's best for the other person. And if you are not what's best for the other person, it's recognizing that the best thing for you to do is to separate yourself, right? If you love that person that much, you know, there's this quote that like, letting you go was my last act of love. And I really think about that, you know, like sometimes you have to love someone so much you're willing to let them go. You love someone so much that you're willing to stop holding them within the confines of who you are and what you want for them, so that they can grow into whoever they're meant to be. And sometimes we really can be the ones holding them back from experiencing that growth because of the ways that we may smother them or mother them in all the ways that we may not become better people, you know, so now we hold them back and we slow them down and all the rest on their own journeys of what they're meant to do and stuff. And it's I think if you really care and love someone and you understand that you being around isn't allowing them to reach their full potential, what you will do is allow them to go, release them from the attachment that is you, release them from this relationship that you're so caught up in, that you think is your everything. Because like I said, with this potential that you've created, it's not even them that you've fallen in love with. It's not even the person. You don't even see them. You've distorted reality so much and for so long that you've fallen in love with a character in your head. And every time they make a mistake or let you down, they're not meeting your expectations of what you thought they would be. And that's what causes all the conflict and the fighting. And they're frustrated because this is who they are. Like, why? You knew what it was when you signed up. You know, they're frustrated because they're like, why are you so mad? And now it feels like you're the person that's constantly starting the conflict, that's constantly starting a fight. You feel so jaded of the fact that it feels like every day you guys are fighting about something, but it's just because this person isn't meeting your expectations or fulfilling your needs. But you also don't leave, right? Because it feels like all your efforts that you put into this, you can't walk away from it now. Oh, let's speak about it. It feels like everything you've invested, all the time spent, all the money, all the, I guess, all the ways that you've forgiven and forgiven and forgiven. What was that for if it means now, like, we're at the end of it, if it means now you have to walk away? And so we convince ourselves and delude ourselves that there's no way that this is over, that there's no way that it was for nothing, that there's no way that we have stretched the lifespan of this relationship and stuff like that, because it feels like there must be a reward for this. There must be something you earn for everything you've put in. And I think that's the heartbreak that we sit in. And that is what makes us end up stretching the lifespan of relationships over years that were meant to end in a month and so on. Because we get married to this idea of them. And it's so difficult to detach from it, right? Because in that attachment with them, in that bond that you've created, there's something chemically that's going on too, off of the cycle of like fighting, being okay again, fighting, being okay again. There's something that you're doing energetically that pulls you guys in and makes this normal for you and makes this kind of the chemical balance with which you guys thrive off of, where fighting isn't even a threat to you anymore. Like when you guys fight, it just feels like this is normal. This is what we do anyways. This is the dynamic of our relationship. When you guys don't see eye to eye and all the rest, when expectations aren't met, when needs aren't fulfilled, it feels so normal because it is triggering something in you where I guess psychologists would argue in your childhood where your needs weren't fulfilled and met, and it feels so familiar to you that it's so difficult for you to walk away from that, because this is the only thing you've ever known. This is the only idea of love you've ever really experienced, or at least what you think is love. And it becomes so difficult to heal that inner child, essentially, because you keep creating a lifestyle that supports that truth that you are inadequate, that you are not deserving of love, that you are not deserving of a healthy love, that all you'll ever know and see and experience is struggle love, and love that puts you in danger, love that gives you anxiety, love, and you think it's a thrill. You think this is how it's supposed to be. If we don't fight for love, you know, the whole all is fair in love and war, and it feels so normal to constantly exist in that kind of system of bonding to people and attaching to people. But when you're actually just creating more scars on you, and you're really damaging and hurting yourself even more. But if it's all you've ever known and it feels familiar to you, that is what will be attractive to you. If they're really unavailable, emotionally unavailable and distant and all, and that's what you know, it feels like this thing that's pulling you towards it. And now you're trying to convince the other person that you're deserving. You're trying to audition for their love. You're trying to compete for their love. You'll compete with everything going on in their life, you know, to try to show them that you are the winner. You are the champ that comes out on top. And it's so exhausting by the end of it. You are so worn out by the end of it that it feels like there's no way this should end. There must be something that I've earned after all that effort that I had put in. There must be a relationship that comes out of it. You know, surely there must be a proposal that comes out of it. And this entire time you fell for potential that was never there, because you'll end up finding out that this person is willing to do and be everything you wanted them to do and be for somebody else. And that's also the craziest thing. The craziest switch up is realizing that sometimes when people say they're not in a space to be in a relationship, what they mean is that they're not in a space to be in a relationship with you, you know, or that it's just, you're just not doing that thing for them. And it's heartbreaking to hear. And that's why we try to find other ways of saying things like, I'm not in this space, I'm not in that, and all of that. Whereas, maybe you just don't inspire that version of them that you so desperately want them to be. And I think it's important for us to be able to learn to see that early on, that if someone isn't being who we want them to be, we don't need to manipulate them into becoming that. We don't need to keep telling them of all that they could be and stuff. We don't need to keep fighting also. We're all like growing adults. We don't need to tell another adult how to be a better person, how to communicate and all the rest. We can decide, actually, I don't want to be a part of this and I don't need to, you know, and excuse yourself from it. And I get it, it's heartbreaking, especially if you feel desperate for validation and love and attention and just the feel. And I get it, maybe your inner child feels that too, this desire of wanting to be seen and all the rest, and you're really hoping that this person can do that for you. And it's really hard to walk away from certain people who are able to do just enough to make you feel special, but it's crippling you even more and causing more trauma within you, because now whenever you create bonds with other people, you're expecting that instability. Is that a word? When you're unstable? but you're expecting to feel like you're constantly in this tornado, like constantly in a war zone in order to experience love, something passionate, something great and big. And you're gonna be really upset when you realize that it never needed to be like that to begin with. That there is love that is soft, that is safe, that is nurturing, that sees you, that accepts you, that welcomes you, that celebrates you, that was particularly made for you. And you don't have to keep your fists up all the time. You can soften your hands here. We can hold hands in this love. You can feel like, I don't know, you can just feel like a better version of yourself in this space, whereas you're so used to constantly having to fight for love, and you think that is the way to move forward, that is the way to experience it. And I guess more than anything, like what I'm hoping to speak to in this episode is that this potential that you told yourself this person has, unless they're exhibiting behaviors that are showing consistent effort to act on it, it's wasted potential. There's no value in it, as I keep saying. And you don't need to try inspire that out of them. You don't need to evoke that or whatever. If they're not doing that for themselves, there's nothing you can make someone feel that they don't already feel about themselves. And so if they don't want to be that version for you, then you don't have to convince them that they need to be. You can just walk away. You can just let it go. You can decide that this isn't for you. And in that way, you can pull towards what is meant for you. You can avail yourself to what is meant for you, instead of being in a cycle of potential with someone who has no intention of being that, at least not for you. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
In the
on?
20s,
Think about
yeah.
the 20s.
The 20s,
What
baby.
happened
The 20s.
What in the 20s is
I am
going
here
on?
for my
20s, baby. This is the 20s.